This budget hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriation and Adjudication will now reconvene with the Kumision. I want to thank the Vice Speaker for joining me for this afternoon's hearing, and I welcome Senator Hope Cristobal and the Board of Kumision. You may begin your testimony. Oh, whoever's going to speak, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker. There are 4 of us here, and we have divided our testimony among ourselves.
Okay.
Saludos and Hafaday, Speaker Cruz, and members of the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication, and the Legislative Office of Finance and Budget. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss our budget request and projected activities for fiscal year 2019. Before we begin our discussion of duties and responsibilities of the Kumision, as stipulated in Public Law 33-236, and as contained in our strategic plan, developed by current Kumision members for the period of 2017 to 2020, please allow us to request your kind consideration and approval of the following. Number 1, the authorization to carry over unencumbered funds from fiscal year 2018 appropriation of $230,000 through December 31, 2018. This request is necessitated by administrative hurdles that the Kumision has experienced in attempting to access funds since the start of the fiscal year. We have just been given access to the GSA AS400 procurement module system as of May 22nd, 2018, 6 months after the fiscal year 2018 began, and only through the intervention of Vice Speaker Therese Terlahi. We are now at a great disadvantage, as we have been advised that GG1's contracts and procurement may take months to process, and there are deadlines for entering requisitions in the system, which are fast approaching. We are working with a staff person, Marilyn Regis from DCA, and a staff person, Chelsea Akwai, from the Guam Department of Education's Chamorro Language and Special Projects Division, to assist us on a limited time basis to enter the information needed to process requests utilizing our FY 2018 funds. We have been advised by GSA, DOA, and BBMR that they are not able to expedite the process to encumber the Kumision's appropriated funds prior to the end of the fiscal year by September 30, 2018. Your kind consideration of our dilemma is greatly appreciated. A carryover would allow us to procure contractual services, hire the 2 unclassified positions we have requested, and process requisitions for office space rental, equipment, communications and technical services, and establish the administrative support structure required to implement our duties and responsibilities.
Number 2, appropriation of our full budget request as submitted to the Governor's Office in the amount of $467,900. The Governor's budget has reduced our request to $130,000 for FY 2019. This drastically reduced amount would only allow us to continue the services of 2 GG1 unclassified positions that we are currently seeking to fill. Rent of approximately 700 square feet of office space at $2 per square foot, and pay the authorized $50 stipends to Kumision members for attendance at board meetings. With a carryover of FY 2018 funds, we may be able to reduce projected personnel costs to cover the 9 remaining months of FY 2019 beyond December 31st, 2018. This formula will enable us to barely cover the costs of telecommunications and internet service, website maintenance, and server costs. We will not be able to effectively implement any of the programs and provide outreach services as specified in our mandate. We have formally transmitted budget documents to the Speaker on June 8, 2018, which includes the budget contained in the Governor's request for $130,000 and our original budget request for FY 2019 in the amount of $467,900 for your review. The Kumision is also seeking grant opportunities to fund special projects that will enhance our mission, for which local funds be required as matching. This is reflected in our original budget request.
Duties and responsibilities. The scope of services the Commission is prepared to deliver with the appropriate funding and support from both the executive and legislative branches is contained in the Commission's 2017 to 2020 strategic plan. Our vision states, Tinanga, utalani usuun mona zauhot ngakuzi ilinalat Chamorro. Uta atitude ikinahulu itinauto zanupet sigi ifinut Chamorro, linaala zanipinalofani tau tanu guahan. Vision. We lead nation-building efforts to ensure the continuity of our Chamorro peoplehood and nationhood by fostering the restoration and revitalization of our language, culture, and history as Guahans Tau-Tau-Tano. We, the members of the Commission, are prepared and committed to champion this cause. In the area of administration and support, the Commission will provide the organizational structure, processes, and services necessary to carry out its mandate to protect, maintain, and promote the language, history, and culture of the indigenous people of Guam, the Chamorro people. As part of our Chamorro language orthography and lexicon strategy, the Commission will continually study and update the orthographic rules of the Chamorro language and provide notification to public and private institutions of updates to the Chamorro orthography. Further, the Commission will consult with government leaders and others in the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands who are interested in the standardization of the Chamorro language orthography. Seek to recognize and establish agreement relevant to the orthography, as well as acknowledging existing regional differences. The Commission will research and develop new lexicon to accommodate new vocabulary and continually update the Chamorro dictionary to include new words and revisions in meaning and orthographic spelling.
The Commission's education and research program will provide requisite virtual Let me repeat myself again. The Commission's education and research program will provide requisite virtual updates to an online comprehensive Chamorro English dictionary once developed on our website. We are also exploring ways of making the 13 historical Chamorro dictionaries in existence available virtually through an MOU with Learning Chamorro housed at UOG for students of the Chamorro language. As it is imperative that we grow the number of children speakers of Chamorro, one of our strategic objectives is to develop and disseminate a children's Chamorro Pictionary. Additionally, we will develop standardized, culturally relevant curricular guidelines for mandated courses in Guam schools and institutions of higher learning related to Guam's history, language, and culture, conduct research, publish, and produce multimedia and print materials relating to the Chamorro language, history, and culture, coordinate with the Department of Education, charter schools, and other institutions, including private schools and businesses in Guam, to ensure the appropriate use of the adopted standardized Chamorro orthography and grammar, provide training to promote increased understanding of the Chamorro heritage, function as a clearinghouse to provide guidance for accurate representations and interpretations of Chamorro language, history, and culture. We will work with Isagan Plano Cias and Información, the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, to plan and conduct a survey to determine the existing number of Chamorro speakers and the existing number of children learning Chamorro and the occurrence of intergenerational transmission, which may be used to direct Chamorro revitalization and education immersion program efforts. Further, we will collect and maintain an archive of all things written in the Chamorro language for students and scholars of our language and culture. A well-informed community network is central to the success of the Kumision's goals. The Kumision's community outreach program will utilize different platforms to advise public and private institutions, broadcast and written media, to include magazines and individuals on issues related to the alignment of both spoken and written media, publications, signage, and manuscripts with the grammatical and orthographic rules established by the Kumision. A robust, technically well-developed and maintained website will allow the Kumision to make its education and research products available online. While this virtual strategy is costly at the onset, the benefits will far outweigh the expense required. Building capacity to teach Chamorro effectively and produce historical and cultural materials through the development of a strong cadre of professionals dedicated to training a new generation of Chamorro language speakers is paramount to our mission. To this end, the Kumision plans to engage and contract the services of Chamorro teachers and college students taking Chamorro language classes or majoring in Chamorro to assist the Kumision in implementing the responsibilities given to the Kumision as described herein. This effort will strengthen the capacity of teachers, provide for ongoing professional development through hands-on engagement, and grow the expertise of young professionals needed for Chamorro revitalization program continuity. The Kumision will facilitate the establishment of a Chamorro translation service for public and private entities and individuals and broadcast and print media with an appropriate fee structure for such services. Further, we will certify qualified translators who are knowledgeable in the orthography and will recommend certified translators to interested clients.
By law, the Kumision is also tasked to serve as the Kumision Inaan Lugar, Guam Place Name Commission, to develop, implement, and advise interested parties on the coherent, culturally sound, and historically accurate set of criteria for selecting place names, and coordinate with the Guam Land Use Commission, the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, the Department of Education, the University of Guam, the Guam Community College, the village mayors, Departamento ni Kauhau Ginahan Chamorro, and with other civil and religious organizations interested in providing appropriate place names for Guam and consistency in signage. The Kumision will collaborate and provide recommendations to these entities in its function as the Kumision Inaan Lugar and shall keep records thereof. Further, the Kumision will study ancient Chamorro terminology and pronunciation of place names and restore and align pronunciation with the current Chamorro orthography. This constitutes our scope of work. We appeal to you to fully consider the mandate we have been given. The Kumision has been charged with leading this momentous effort. We accept the challenge. All our professional endeavors combined have prepared us for such work. We take the responsibility of Chamorro revitalization and the assurance of continuity of our indigenous language, culture, traditions, and values as very urgent and serious business. This deserves the highest priority under your watch as our government leaders and lawmakers. We prevail on you to, quote, put public monies where our mouth is, so to speak, unquote, and properly fund the Kumision so that we can effectively execute our functions. To underfund the Kumision would be tantamount to benign neglect. We are confident that it will never be said that under your tenure as decision makers, you chose not to act. Kumision members have worked tirelessly since we were appointed and first convened as a body on May 8, 2017, without any funding in 2017 and inaccessible funding up to this point. We have been gathering at a minimum of once weekly in either work sessions or formal meetings to create an administrative structure, develop a strategic plan, update the orthography, discuss and expand the lexicon with new words, complete training requirements for board members, respond to a myriad of requests for assistance from public and private agencies regarding appropriate language use and naming. All this while not having a dedicated space to work in, staff to assist with administrative work, research or program development, and without the communication tools required to properly execute our duties and responsibilities as stipulated in the law. Our vision calls us to engage in nation building to the fullest extent possible, mustering our collective force to do what we must. Our indigeneity is at stake. We cannot do this work without your full support. We are asking for that now. Sidus Masi.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that you've not had access to the funds that we appropriated this last year or this current fiscal year. What's the current status of that? Have you spent any of the money at all? Or?
What do you mean? We've spent some. Yeah.
We've spent a little. We've rebudgeted some of the funds to meet some of our counterparts in the CNMI. So if everything goes well with our TAs, we should be able to meet with our counterparts in the CNMI. And approximately about 20,000 has been reprogrammed to allot for that meeting. And it's supposed to happen at the end of this month. As far as the rest of the funds because I just arrived last night, is still at a standstill?
No, it's still at a standstill. We have not been able to enter any of our requisitions yet. Basically, we're doing the groundwork. We're getting quotations and all the requisite documentation to support our requisitions. So once we have already gathered a whole list of things that we need. The thing is, we don't have a place to put any of this stuff. We still need to have office space. And so that process is, from what I understand, an invitation for bid process through the GSA procurement, and that goes out to the public, and whatever the results are of whoever bids for the space that we need, a decision will be made after. My understanding is that it takes at the least 3 months or 4.
And so you don't have any staff.
No, we do not have staff. We do not have anything but our... We have a lot of love. And a lot of support.
But the first expenditure is going to be travel for the entire commission too?
Yes, because it coincided with an international Pacific Island Bilingual Bicultural Association conference, where our counterparts are going to be there. And so we're setting up a meeting with our counterparts at the CNMI at this conference. Furthermore, we are
where
also...
Where is this at?
It's in Saipan. Mr. Speaker, let me just do the proper introduction here, because we've just have 2 added Kumision members. First, let me just begin with Peter Onidera. He's a legislative appointee. And of course, Jimmy Teria, our vice chairperson. Peter, I'm sorry, heads the committee, the Culture Committee. And Terry is our UOG appointee. And then, of course, Dr. Loling Sauder, who is the governor's appointee, and Rufina Mendiola, who is the Department of Education appointee. I'm sorry that we should have introduced ourselves earlier, for the record.
And do you want to tell us about your budget request for the 470, 430?
467?
Yeah.
This was our original request, Mr. Speaker, and Public Law 33-236 had quite a few of our duties stipulated there, and we wanted to be sure that we could perform all our duties and responsibilities. So it was the budget that we came up with in order to be able to begin working as mandated by the law. And so after we submitted the 467,900 budget, the legislature passed 33-42 that provided us with 230,000 for fiscal year 2018. And so if you have it in front of you, Mr. Speaker, we asked your finance and budget person if she can make a copy of it. You can see the allocations that we have made to justify the 467,900. And Loling, if you want to add something more.
The budget for 2018, were you given transfer authority? Were you given transfer authority? I'm looking at your 2018 budget, and I don't see any allocation for travel.
It's under miscellaneous, and we reprogrammed it. Jimmy, you talk. I'll let Jimmy talk about that, because that was performed by Jimmy through the advice of the Kumision.
Yes, buenas, Mr. Speaker. Could you repeat the question, Dispensa?
Yeah, I'm looking at, under 220, travel off island, there's nothing. But somehow
Okay.
in miscellaneous, this travel.
Yes. We were advised by BBMR to categorize our funds into just a few categories, and then just to go through the process in order for them to program the funds. And then according to their advisement, they said that we could reprogram as soon as we were able to establish the accounts. So after that, we went ahead and we reprogrammed about $20,000 to accommodate for this interface with our counterparts in the CNMI.
So in essence, I think they did give us authority to recategorize expenditures, because they were actually lumped into contractual services and miscellaneous without any definition of what the needs were. So we've been going on that basis. But in the submitted budget, our original budget of 467.9, we tried very carefully to break it down into the items that have been provided to us by BBMR. So you'll see that they're much more detailed in our original submission than in the way that it appeared when the money was finally awarded to us.
And the BBMR, when they broke it down,
for 2018. Yeah, I don't think they broke it down into anything but two categories, no? The two categories that they broke it down into were contractual services and miscellaneous and supplies. Or there were three categories. So they advised the vice chair of the Kumision that this would not be a problem, that they would be able to shift within categories since the money wasn't appropriated by category. So we've just gone on the basis of what the priorities were in the law. And one of the largest priorities in the law is for us to get together with our CNMI counterparts and to begin the process of exploring standardization across the Marianas. So with the orthography, and that's what presented itself through PIBA. So that has become the first of our official engagements with funding. Everything else we've done you know, without any financial resources, yeah, pro bono. So, I mean, some of us have traveled to destinations to get information that would be valuable to the Commission at our own expense. Does that help clarify your question, sir?
Quite clear, and I'm just...
It's a perplexing situation. We know that it's bureaucracy. We don't sense that there's deliberate pushback, but there's no sense of urgency or priority either on the side of those who move these things along. Without the Vice Speaker, we wouldn't have even gotten access. I mean, we feel confident that that's the case. And so we finally have access, but we've been told that everything will take at least 3 to 4 months. So for example, we've already put in the request for a bid to go out for a place to rent. And we've been told that that'll take 3 or 4 months. We've asked for the processing of the 2 GG1 positions, and because they advised us that if you already have some positions on record and the program, the Chamorro language and special programs division of DOE has those positions already on record. So we were told that that would facilitate movement. So we decided on using those 2 positions, but we've been told again that that'll take 3 to 4 months. And if everything takes 3 to 4 months from the time we have access, we're bumping up against September 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year. And that's why we're requesting the first action we need would be to be assured that if the processing doesn't take place in time, that we're still able to access those funds up to the end of the year. The carryover is critical for that. We are going to process all the requests prior to the fiscal year ending, but again, we've been told that we cannot, that no exception to the rule can be made in terms of expediting process. So that being the case, we're doing our homework diligently. We're getting the 3 quotes from each of the vendors for the kinds of things we need, you know, but it still has to go through the system. So until it goes through the system, we have no idea when it will result in our getting the kinds of services and support system we need. But do you have any questions on the 2019 request that we've made? With the governor's budget of $130,000, I think we hopefully made it clear that we'll only be able to do very little. That is, we'll be able to keep the 2 people, if they do get hired before December, we'll be able to keep those 2 people for the remainder of the fiscal year. We'll have, if we're able to rent an office of 700 square feet at $2 per square foot, we'll be able to stay in that location till the end of the fiscal year. There are supplies and materials that include internet services, telephone services, and basic communication. But it won't sustain, for example, renting or leasing a photocopying machine, nothing like that. We won't be able to do the website launch that we're hoping, which is to go, we're very committed to going virtual on things and making material available virtually, but we need the website to be developed and maintained in order for us to do that. So the governor's budget of $130,000 will not allow us to do any of those kinds of things.
But why do you have a printing budget of $60,000 for a children's orthography dictionary?
That is the exception, is the children's Pictionary, because children learn from having materials in their classrooms, and so a printed Pictionary is critical to that process. That would be the only distinction in our, but for example, we're not going to go into printing an updated Chamorro English dictionary. We'll do that virtually. All of the orthographic changes, while we might print some booklets because people need something right in hand, but most of that will be online. Any material that we find that we can make available in Chamorro will be put online. So all the work that the commission is doing, we hope to do virtually if we have the right kind of equipment and programming.
And your 467 has an office space of $1,200 at $3 as opposed to $700 at $2.
Right, because we figured if we're able to get contract employees and we're able to bring in teachers and students of Chamorro to work in work teams with us, we're going to need a larger space than the 700 square feet. The 700 square feet will sustain a 2-person office and barely enable us to meet, but that'll be the minimum. If we're able to get the 2 unclassified positions, the GG1 positions, plus the 2 contractual positions that we seek in our full budget, then we're going to need a larger space to operate. If we get funding to bring in teachers and students, college students who are taking Chamorro or majoring in Chamorro, and engage them in some of the project work, then we're going to need a little bit of a bigger space.
And there's also in your 467 a $50,000 conference?
A conference here, Speaker. We haven't had a Chamorro language conference, Chamorro language, culture, and history conference in the Marianas. There have been some meetings that have included, a paper or 2 on Chamorro, or on history or on culture, but we haven't had a bona fide conference here on Guam that brings together people who are doing research work. And
at a $50,000 price tag?
No, we can't do that with a $50,000 price tag, but the
Your
local
budget's saying
matching,
$50,000.
local matching would be $50,000. We're hoping to be able to get support funding from other sources, but we need a baseline commitment of local funding. It would mean bringing in people who are not necessarily here, but who are engaged in, Chamorro scholars in different places, for example, linguists, people who are doing work, bringing people home to really harvest some of the stuff that they're doing so that we can expand our capability. And there are a lot of Chamorro scholars who are working elsewhere, who are doing great work that we're not even aware of. So, you know, part of the effort of holding a conference would be to bring in these local experts and try to harvest the kinds of things that they're able to provide. And we got a sense of this through FESPAC, when a lot of them came home to participate in FESPAC activities. And so, you know, we felt that the commission could be the one that spearheads such an endeavor. And we know that $50,000 is not going to cover the conference by any shape of the imagination, but we're going to need to have the seed funding that we can then use as a matching effort. But we know that we can hold a $50,000 conference with people here at home. You know, we know that we can do that. But if we're able to get funding for other scholars, then we'll seek that funding from the humanities and elsewhere.
Do you have any questions?
And incidentally, that the price of the publishing of the Chamorro Pictionary, the money that we've identified as a requisite would be to take care of everything plus a nominal amount of printing. But for example, if DOE wants copies, they may have to cough up some funds for copies for every child or for every classroom sets, that kind of thing. But this would be the baseline. Because Pictionaries are very highly illustrated, you know.
And it's actually research-based, Mr. Speaker. Research shows that 70% of learning is visual. So for little children, it has to have that.
Right.
And so that's why we're calling it a Pictionary, because a lot of pictures in there.
Yeah.
Buenas. Thank you for your testimony today. This budget is complex. It's the cap is really quite small, and it at first glance looks like I don't know, just very hard to meet your mission, I would think. But I thought that you did a very good job in prioritizing where you could use the $130,000 cap amount. But I think you're right, that so you've summarized that it would only really fund 2 GG1 unclassified positions, and that you have finally begun to process those, but it will take you till the end of the fiscal year to, according to DOA, to actually hire or to get the persons in an office. And in order to fund them in FY19, then the 130 is not enough, that you would need a little bit left from the FY18. Otherwise, we're facing same problem in FY19, that you wouldn't be able to have even 2 employees.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then your office space is very small. Yeah, it fits 2 people plus maybe a table to have a meeting.
Yes. That's it.
But so I appreciate that, and all the other work that you have done pro bono on your own. And we were very fortunate that the Kumision was filled with very, very, very capable people who have, for their entire lives, done this type of work. So we actually are borrowing from all of your past experience and all your work in order to even function, I think, in the manner that you are. And I want to commend you for what you have done, and particularly for your strategic plan. I think it's we still have agencies that are still working on those things. So I think this Commission has done an excellent job. I know for a fact that you have worked weekly on this, that you meet weekly working on your plan, and then having your formal meetings once a month. But so I know that there's a lot of work going into all the different committee work that you are also doing. And so procurement, yes, there was it was an administrative nightmare, I understand, that you could not get, the money's been appropriated, but you just could not
Gain access.
procure anything. Finally, only now you're able to procure, but it's not going to get you a notebook until September. That's what they're saying. Well, I guess you need to get the quotes and things like this, but those are not ready.
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months. That really does
But
not.
at the tender, there are the usual
Yes, you can get-
supplies that can be had. We just don't have a place to put any of that stuff.
All right.
Yeah,
So-
we've made the list, the complete
Okay.
tender list and all that, but
All
they
right.
say pick it up in 24 hours. That's the only very, very, very quick turnaround. We need a
Okay.
place. We need a place to put the stuff, and we really don't feel comfortable housing it in our homes because you know how
Yes,
complex
government
that is
property,
as well.
Yes, sure. I am glad that the Department of Chamorro Affairs and the Division of Chamorro Studies at DOE and the University of Guam have finally, given you access and to their personnel for help to process these things. I think that's what it looks to me when the law was written. That's what was intended. But I understand that that's really not as smooth as it sounds. It's almost. It's so complex, and it was very complicated for you to actually do that because they all have their own missions, and these people were hired for their own particular work. So I just want to thank you for your perseverance in actually getting this far.
Just as a point of information, the people that we were dealing with in running around and trying to accomplish what needed to be done, all these government agencies had staff that were just willing to assist, but we couldn't go beyond each of their duties and responsibilities. But I tell you, I have met some of the most friendliest, welcoming people in the government of Guam, and I really applaud every one of them that has helped us come forward. They even call us up at home and, don't forget this tomorrow, you need to turn this in. And so we're learning the ropes.
That's great.
And our learning curve is leveling out.
Great. Well, I'm very glad to hear that. And I am glad that you included, towards the end of your testimony today about the priority. And we are trying to make this a priority. I think we are also facing, very potential austere measures for the entire government next year beyond what we've even begun to discuss. So I just want to share that with you because priority is going to be the word that we throw around. But yes, I think your perseverance shows it is a priority for you. It's a priority for us. I want to assure you that. And we will do our best. But I think sometimes, right, like you said, your vision and calls us to engage in nation building. Our indigeneity is at stake. I just don't want money to be the issue, right? And money doesn't always, for me personally, show the priority. And maybe that's just going to have to be the reality, and I'm not wishing that on you, but I'm just saying, if it is, I really very much commend you for persevering and showing us with your leadership that how it can be done. As to the budget requests in detail, there's just a huge difference between, of course, the 467 that you sent to BBMR and what you got back, 130,000. When I see this, big difference, of course, that's why I said I thought you did a good job in prioritizing where you would actually spend the 130. It's very clear. The conference is out, if that's the case, and that you've really focused on, getting the orthography, getting the things you think are absolutely necessary to continue to function, getting the 2 personnel, getting a very small space. But ideally, I wish we could do all these things, but we are relying on you Your commission is full of experts, and we are relying on you to prioritize. So, yeah, I think just generally the government has been kind of on lockdown for travel, but of course there are exceptions, and we are going. I think they're allowing travel, but we just have to be very, very able to say that that is the priority above everything else that we could be doing. And I just had a few. Sorry, let me just get that right paper, the correct paper here. Last year, there was an exemption made in the FY18 budget for hiring unclassified, and it looks like from your testimony you intend to hire unclassified. So I wanted to make sure you still want an exemption to hire unclassified instead of classified. Yeah. That's correct. And is it correct to predict that your carryover at the end of FY18 might be almost identical to the FY18 appropriation then, or what do you expect it to be?
We're hoping to be able to encumber most of the funds through these requests that we're making to the system right now. But they can't tell us what will go through before the end of the fiscal year. And we know that because they've been saying to us that it's not going to happen within 3 to 4 months, that there will be things that won't have been processed. So if we don't encumber the amounts that have already been allocated to us and there is no carryover, then we're going to even be in a worse position than imaginable if we only get the 130,000. So, it's like if we're able to do the carryover, then we can uki a little and have some kind of latitude in that interim period between September 30th and December 31st to do some things with the monies that have been allocated to us that have not been encumbered as of September 30th.
Yes, of course.
So that will give us a little latitude.
You've taken out the amounts for contractual services.
Cut-off dates, yes. Oh, that's right.
Pardon?
Vice Speaker, the thing we're fighting against is that GSA has cut-off dates.
Oh, yes.
So it's not that we can't do what is necessary to get them the information, but they also have significant cutoff dates.
That's right.
Starting in July.
I was going to say June, but July, yes.
Yeah.
And we received the information.
The information,
just last week.
Okay. So
all right.
we know that they won't consider things.
Continue to bear that in mind. So maybe at that time, when you're cut off, send a list of what you were able to do and not do. Just kind of like an update for the committee. Maybe that will be helpful also.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
I think you explained what you wanted for contractual service and what you're actually going to do if you only get 130. And so there's a quite significant cut. Yes. Cutting a website is huge for your commission. It cuts out printing, except for the one exception. All right.
But for example, just as part of that website or contractual services, we're hoping to engage in an MOU with Learning Chamorro, which is .com, which is a system of learning.
Yes.
That's very popular. It has several million hits or participants. And so we thought, rather than creating our own system of embedding the dictionary, for example, because there are 13 dictionaries that should be made available to students of Chamorro, 13 in history. And so what they're willing to do is allow our partnering with them to embed the dictionaries into the learning apparatus.
Right.
But we would have to hire students of Chamorro, of the Chamorro program at the university to input the data. So that would be one way we could provide stipends to students. That's a contractual expense.
I see.
And in order for us to use their system, we would also have to pay an annual fee. But that cuts down our need to create that kind of apparatus
Yes.
as a parallel, you know. So there are apps, learning apps in Chamorro that we would like to partner with and then bring up to standard in terms of orthography. But we can't do that if we don't have any contractual latitude. So, for example, I just found out recently that the Chamorro emoji program, they just took it off the system. So you used to have a Chamorro app, a Chamorro language app for telephones, you know, for your smartphones. They've taken that out, and it's because they lack funding. So those are the kinds of ways that through partnering we could provide a little bit of assistance so that these great things can continue to exist for learning Chamorro, for learners of Chamorro, because we have to teach them in the context that and the tools with which they learn. You know, no matter how we say, oh, they should just learn by hanging around with us oldies and learning how to speak, they learn through their technology. So we have to provide that learning through technology, and that's why the website development, the technical capacity is so critical.
I appreciate that very much, and I'm very excited by when you came in earlier. I can't remember what that hearing was. There was another hearing where you outlined your plans for the website, and particular the partnering for the dictionary. And I just think that's such a great idea, and I'm excited, and I want to share that because money is kind of depressing to talk about sometimes, but really the work that you're doing it's so exciting. It's you started from one dictionary, the one that's pretty commonly used and known, and you're going to take all the other dictionaries that you have had access to, and these are not commonly shared, or we don't have regular access to those, and you are going to share those.
Yes.
And I just think that's excellent. I think
to show how the word has evolved over time,
Yes.
how it's used differently.
Yeah, some of these dictionaries I understand were recorded by the Spanish when they came, and
Spanish, German,
so we have like a snapshot of that time, and then different time periods and different perspectives. So it's exciting, and it shows our language has grown, right? And it's like our culture's alive, and so I just want to encourage you. So please don't be discouraged by the time it has taken, and the red tape and the hassle that it's been. But I thank you so very much for continuing to persevere and just to keep it up, and we will get there. I feel very confident. Thank you. Yes.
So, Dispensazo, buenas. So I just wanted to say that we're not going to be here forever. A group of us are sitting in front of you guys, and I'm looking at the speaker because you're retiring. So look at us. We're making a big difference in our language, our culture, and our history. Not so many group of people can sit before you to do that, and we have done that already, even without any money. So we're asking you, help us, because already we are reaching out to the business, to EOG as far as translation. There's so many already in our behind us with our work. We're so overwhelmed, but we can't say no to these people because it's all about us, the Chamorro people, and for our island. So, si Deus mose, o sosodzu isinapotenmizu, por favor, hasui Kumision.
Anything else? No? This budget hearing will now recess until tomorrow morning when we meet with the Division of Public Health at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Department of Public Health.